What is up, you beautiful people? Nate Dotson here with the Riverfront Red Show. We are part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and we're going to talk a little bit of Reds baseball. We're going to talk a little bit of James Earl Jones. We're going to talk about Ellie De La Cruz still just being awesome. And we're going to talk about the Reds pitching and try to find something we can do to look forward to next season after what's been a pretty rough stretch. Once again, for our Red Legs, with me today is the man, the myth, the legend, Father of the Year, Cleveland Cavaliers basketball fan, recovering Bulls fans, tough out there in these streets. Tim Daniel, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I appreciate that last slide there. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I always love when I get to chop it up with you. As you're about to find out in the near future, when you're a dad, it's a little harder, but you cherish every chance you get to do it. So,
You know what? You're the man. I appreciate you. Thank you for holding down the fort last week. And man, I think we should do a whole separate pod. You ever listen to the Bill Simmons podcast?
I only listen to it when it's not football season because his football takes are god awful.
Fair enough. That's not a wild take. Him and this guy cousin Sal do a Guess the Lines podcast, and at the end of it, they do something called Parent Corner. They've
Yep.
been doing it for like 15 years.
Yeah.
And I'm this close to being qualified to do a parent corner, so maybe we can have something like that in the future. I tried to get a restaurant corner going with our Slack family. We had one question, so maybe we'll touch on that.
I'm excited. Shout out Grandpa James.
Grandpa James, the oldest guy, he was actually around when they invented restaurants.
Yeah, true story.
Impressive.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a quick standings update after today. So we are recording this on Thursday evening as usual. The Reds are 71 and 77 by my calculations. They are tied going into this evening's games with Tim's beloved Pittsburgh Pirates for first place. No, for last place in the National League Central Division. Yikes. They are only 10 games back in the wild card race with 15 to go. So are you telling me there's a chance?
You know what's great, Nate, is there's only 17 games left this season.
Put us out of our misery.
Gosh.
No, even bad Reds baseball is still better than no baseball.
True.
There's a lot of other things. But hey, and they might get a decent draft pick.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's how it shook out last year. They were above 500 and got the second pick overall. So
yeah. So let's hope the law of averages does not kick in here.
Right.
We're still tuning in. We're hopeless. You're fans of this stinking team. And, you know, there were some signs of life for a minute there, largely on the backs of the starting rotation, this makeshift starting rotation. So we'll get into that a little bit. But after sweeping the Braves in thrilling fashion, they completed a series against Atlanta. They completed it in Cincinnati, but it was
No. It was they played 2 in July in Atlanta, and then they did the makeup game. They go to Cincinnati next week.
okay. But the makeup game, was it in Cincinnati or was it in Atlanta?
It was in Atlanta.
Okay. I was traveling for work, so I apologize to
that has happened before.
Dedicated listeners.
2013, they had a makeup game against the Giants. I don't know if you remember this. And because there wasn't any way the schedule could work for San Francisco to come back to Cincinnati, they played a game at San Francisco as the home team.
I wish they would have done that in the playoffs a couple years prior, but
yeah,
we're trying to have fun here. So let's get some of the negativity out of the way. Let's talk about some injuries real quick. There are currently 0 of the Reds' projected starting rotation active.
Mm-hmm.
On the roster, which is it's just crazy. It's sort of a microcosm of everything we've seen out of this team, but somehow they keep trucking along. Hunter Green is back and throwing some bullpens apparently, and he's hoping to come back, they're saying, during a little 5-game homestand later this month, sometime in that 17th through the 22nd range. Any thoughts on whether or not you think he should?
I get why he wants to, and it would be great to see him, but this is a lost season, man. Like, pack it in. Enjoy your time in Arizona before you got to report in February. Even though your house is apparently really right by the spring training facilities, and just chill, man. Like, you had a great year. You gave us all reasons to believe that you are the man because you are the man. And let's just roll. You're not playing for anything. Don't risk it.
Yeah, he is the man at this point in the season. Sitting with a tidy little 2.83 ERA at 143.1 innings pitched, 154 ERA plus. Absolutely becoming that dude that we all thought he could. I'm going to zag with you a little bit, and this will not be the case for every player we talk about. I like that he's coming back. One, gives us fans a little something to root for.
Sure.
At the end of another lost season. Two, he's going to get a couple Cy Young votes, I think. Some down ballot Cy Young votes. And just from a competitive standpoint, I think it says a lot about the guy that he could come back and try to tack on to that. And three, mainly just the nature of the injury. It wasn't a pitching related injury. If it was something like he hurt his shoulder, hurt his elbow, threw something and felt a tweak, then yeah, shut him down.
Yeah.
But he bumped his elbow on a cabinet, apparently. So let's see what he's got.
Is that up there with what was the pitcher for the Angels a few years ago? He got injured playing Guitar Hero.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That one's worse. I don't know though, man. You have a couple cocktails, a Guitar Hero can get rowdy.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
All right, so we got some Nick Lodolo updates. It said he's seeing serious improvement with his bum finger. It said he's possible to return at the end of the month. And this is where I say, shut him down, shut him down, shut him down. Put him in a pneumatic compression suit that he has to wear every day until he's ready to start his throwing program again. What are we even doing? 4 times on the IL this season. I got nothing else.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that I don't think the Nick Lodolo we saw those last handful of starts is the Nick Lodolo that he is. And I think the injuries play a huge part in that. And same thing. What are we playing for? 17 games to go, 6 games under 500. Just
especially when you're a guy who has had a complete inability to stay healthy in your major league career, then do whatever it takes to get right. Now, maybe his doctors are telling him that going out there and putting forth some max effort or max as whatever his case may be is part of the program, but doesn't seem right to me, though I'm no doctor. My wife is.
True story.
Next up, Andrew Abbott, kind of the same story as Nick Lodolo. He is progressing, may start throwing soon, and could, in theory, be back before season ends. Another guy where I would say shut him down. He was getting a little bit tired. He lasted a little bit longer than he did last season, so we saw some progress on that front. Why mess with it? You built him up a little bit more. Next season, you'll build him up a little bit more. What's his innings count at right now? 138, so right in line with Hunter. If you get that to that 175 range with some sneaky schedule, rest days here and there, that could be a guy that, I don't want to say anchors your rotation, but holds down a spot for the vast majority of next season if you're able to make a playoff run. So any difference in opinion on Andrew Abbott?
Yeah. Not that I think you're wrong by any means, but
How dare you? All right. Tim's last show, everybody. Enjoy.
Yes. I got other shows that'll want me, brother. Don't worry.
Coming in hot. Yeah, you're right though.
I think that I would probably go out there and throw because they're pretty deep in the starting pitching situation right now, organization wise. And if you're looking to get some big bats, he's going to be a name that's probably going to be in those conversations for a trade package if they decide to go that route. So see if he can be something that can boost your trade value. Because worst case, he's back on the team. Best case, you can throw him in to get somebody.
Okay. I like this zag. So get him out there to show his true worth to other teams that may be interested in a middle rotation lefty starter. Or I just talked about innings count. Get him another 5 or 10 innings on the season and keep adding on to that. So, okay, you convinced me. Let's do it. Also, not a guy that's been super injury prone.
Right.
So, all right, we got Sam Moles on the IL, 15-day IL. Okay, listen, what are we even doing here, Tim?
Yeah.
Everybody's injured. The rest of the team's injured. Graham Ashcraft, nobody's even heard of him. He's out hunting in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia, wherever he's from down there. Ian Jabot, we were robbed. We were robbed of so many hilarious Ian Jabot takes this season.
Yes, we were.
My goodness, our guy Calvin. We didn't even get to root for a British guy for our guy Calvin.
I know.
Family. It's just unfair. Haven't we suffered enough as a franchise, as fans of this team, and we don't even get Ian Jabot to root for?
Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
There was some pretty cool stuff. Did you see this thing? I linked to it in the show notes. ESPN, I didn't even see it till today, ran a tournament for the most exciting player in Major League Baseball.
I did not see this.
Yeah, I just stumbled on it today, and I was like, they had Ellie as one of the photos. I was like, I want to see how this plays out, because there's a lot of Cincinnati bias, we feel like, or anti-Cincinnati bias. Not that they're specifically biased against Cincinnati. I feel like people just don't think of Cincinnati, and they should. It's a dope city. But I was very, very happy to see that Ellie De La Cruz made it to the finals. And he lost to Bobby Witt Jr. in the final of the most exciting player in Major League Baseball race. And I would say that's probably fair. I mean, I think you can make an argument that Ellie's more exciting, but Bobby Witt Jr. does. They do the same things pretty much, and Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting like 337.
Right. Yeah. You can live with that.
Yeah. So, now this was a huge, huge leap. You know, they've had similar career trajectories so far. Bobby Witt Jr.'s got a year on Ellie of service time. So if he makes that kind of leap next year, on top of what's already been an incredible sophomore season, man, we will have something to get excited about.
Feels like we're heading that way, man.
I think so. Let's keep the good vibes going, man. I want to talk about a few call them prime performances that we've had of late, because, you know, standings don't matter anymore. We're done. Hopefully they can crawl their way back to 500, because, you know, got to have something. But
Nick's got to have something.
There've been some guys playing pretty good, and we should talk about him at least ever so briefly. First off, I got to shout out my guy, and I never thought I would be saying this, Santiago Espinal, man.
Yeah, man.
So I hate the selective stats. I refuse to pay attention to a stat unless the range I'm given begins on the equivalent of like a round number. If it's like Santiago Espinal from August 13th on road games, played at night with a left-handed starter going 4 or less innings
in the dome,
I don't care. But give me a round number and a big enough sample size, and I can fall as, you know, victim as anybody to these things. Since July 1st, nice round number. We got 2 full months plus a little bit of the current one. Our guy has only played 45 games. Probably should have been more if you're trying to win games, because Lord knows Noelvi Marte has not been setting the world on fire. But our guy, since July 1st, 357 batting average, a 399 on base percentage, and a 524 slugging. My guy has won. This, I don't think this counts today's games. Maybe it did. It was Fangraphs. I don't know how quickly they update. But he is 1/100,000th of a percentage point away from being a 3.45 guy over the last 2.5 months. That's insane. Where do you think he slots in on the 2024 roster?
The 24 roster? I think he's
right. You stop.
Okay.
Stop.
I talked about this a little bit on Late Night Red, so for those that did listen, sorry that you have to hear this again. For those who didn't, congratulations, you get to hear this for the first time.
What show's that?
Late Night Reds.
I'm unfamiliar.
It's on our feed here on this network.
That's the one with Ben Brown, right?
Yeah. He's the man.
He's great. Carries that show.
Yeah, he really does. Who else is on there?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. But I think he's kind of going to get the thing we wanted Nick Senzel to be, the thing we kind of wanted Jose Barrero to be. I think that's Santiago Espinal. I think he's going to be super utility guy. Now, you can see it. They're trying to play him in the corner outfields in times this year when they've been shorthanded. He's played second. He's played short. He's played third this year. He's done everything but play first, catch, and pitch and play center. So I think that you're kind of seeing that situation where that's going to be his role for the 2025 team. He's under team control for 2 more years after this. His free agency year is 27. I might have that wrong. It might be 26. But regardless, he's going to be on the team next year.
Got him for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, he's going to be on the team next year, and I think that's going to be his role. I think that's what he's going to prove to this team, and he's shown he can hit lefties. And I wouldn't say he's been his all-star self. Actually, he has been for sure since July 1st from a couple of years ago in Toronto, but he's certainly kind of shown that he can be very valuable, especially considering he's been better than India. He's been better than Marte. Yeah,
he a few things. He plays a very good defense. He's been a plus defender. So you're always happy to have a guy like that on your team. He's a high contact guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a profile that the Reds just don't have very many of. Like him and Ahmad Rosario, who I'm not a huge Rosario guy, but like I like these guys that put the bat on the ball, even while I do understand that batting average is not as important as we used to think it was. It helps to have some of those guys, especially 1-2 outs in the ninth inning. I don't want a guy like Will Benson that's going to strike out all the time.
Right.
Having a guy like that up there that's going to at least put the ball in play makes me happy. My favorite thing about Espinal, though, is the reaction that he got when he went to Toronto. I love when a fan base loves a guy so much, a role player, a utility man like that, and they were giving him a standing ovation, cheered every time he came up on the Jumbotron. That says a lot about a player. I don't think the Cardinals are doing that for Tommy Pham after either of his stints in St. Louis. So I
don't think the Reds were either. So
no, they weren't. Neither is Jock Peterson. I would welcome a guy like that back on the team next year. I think he has proven enough to me. He started out incredibly slow, but people forget. I'm like, these are human beings. He got traded towards the end of spring training.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have a lot of time to get acclimated, and that's hard. I mean, you're moving. You're trying to find a place to live. You got a family to worry about. No, it's no wonder people could start slow in that situation. So bring him back. I'm not going to say I want him to start over Noelvi Marte, though there's a scenario where if Noelvi Marte doesn't start showing some of the things that he had kind of always showed for the last several years before he is, pop locking and dropping banned substances, then maybe he gets a more regular role. But
he didn't know.
He just didn't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So shouts to Santiago Espinal and his 151 weighted runs created plus. Another guy that is perhaps doing just enough to play himself into the 2025 conversation is Ty France.
Yep.
I've been incredibly surprised by his performance, to say the least. Didn't expect much of him. He's a guy that's got an all-star nod. He's got some prospect pedigree, so there's reason for optimism if you want there to be. But since that July 1st, since he came over to the Reds, 302 batting average, 348 on base, 460 slugging, good for a 118 weighted runs created plus. He's quite simply just been fantastic. He's been super clutch.
He has.
He's hitting for some power. That's kind of emerging a little bit more lately. He is a professional. He's a professional Major League Baseball hitter. And we've talked about this a lot in the offseason. I think we thought we had more of these guys going into the season. We kind of drank the Kool-Aid a little bit. The Reds all season long had so few tough at-bats. They were tough to watch.
Yeah.
They weren't tough on opposing pitchers. And he's up there giving quality at-bats. And I know this is something that you and Ben talk a lot about on your show, like something that you love seeing from these guys. And that's Late Night Reds, hosted by Ben Brown. And sometimes they let Tim say things.
On occasion. Yeah, on occasion.
I don't know how I feel about, obviously, I love Santiago Espinal. I love what he's doing. I love what Ty France has been doing. If you give me my magic wand, I want them to go get guys that are better than both of these guys.
Same.
But if they are not going to do that, and we have very little reason to believe that they will, you can do a lot worse than the Ty Frances of the world on your roster, in my opinion. Do you see Ty France factoring in on this team next year?
I do, especially because they have team control for another year. Yeah. So I think that's going to play a part. But for sure, especially Is he better than Mike Ford? Yes, much better.
This Mike Ford slander will not stand.
Is he better than Dominic Smith? Yes.
R.I.P.
So, and realistically, the best bet is probably CES as the first baseman next year if everything goes as planned. So, in that case, you can have Ty France be your DH. You can have him fill in for CES on days off. And I think he's going to be, a really good bench bat in circumstances for this team. The ballpark's a perfect ballpark for how he likes to play. So I think that's going to be reassuring for him. So, yeah, I definitely think he'll be a part of the team. I think he'll kind of be that backup first baseman, DH against lefties kind of guy, and we'll roll with it.
Yeah, I agree completely. We don't need to spend too much time on this guy, but he does warrant a shout out. Jakob Junis.
Yeah.
Came over from the Brewers in that Frankie Montas trade. After 5 innings of 1-run ball today, he's down to a 2.73 ERA. I didn't know he could be a starter.
I had no idea.
I still don't know, but he's been a starter twice now, and he's got a combined, 9.1 runs or 9.1 innings of 1-run ball. Like, I don't know what magic tricks Derek Johnson is playing. I'm hesitant to give David Bell credit because, I have a brand to worry about. But there's a chance that we got a little bit crawled, and Jakob Junis might be a dude.
Certainly makes that conversation even more interesting about what we talked about earlier with Andrew Abbott, right? It's another name that we're going to see competition for to be in that situation, in that group. I know we'll get to Rhett Lowder here in a little bit as well, but I think Junis is kind of a guy who's opening that situation. He's put himself in that conversation for sure to go into spring training with a shot to be in the rotation. He's been great. I thought that, and I could be wrong here. So those who pay attention to this far more than I do can tell me, and that's fine. But I felt like when that trade happened, you got kind of the collection of who you're getting back from Milwaukee. People were more excited about Joey Weimer, and maybe that's because he's from that school in Clifton. But people seem to think that he was like the guy that everyone was really excited about. And so I was kind of like, okay, sure. I know he's had a couple good moments in the big leagues, but it seems like Junis has kind of been the gem of the deal. It's another one of those really nice pickups they had. So shout out Nick Kroll. I don't give him too many of those, but that was a good one.
Yeah, you got that one right so far. Another classic don't overreact case too. He had a rough 1 or 2 outings. First 1 or 2 outings, I should say, in a Reds uniform, and he's been awesome. He's done more than we could have ever asked for. Another guy that's done more than we could ever ask for, Nick Martinez. 7 innings of shutty ball last time out. Has played every role a pitcher can have, except for closer, I guess. And that's just because, we have the best closer on the planet. He's perfect and should never not be in that role.
Closers aren't real.
Closers aren't real. Like Finland.
Lori Markkinen?
Allegedly.
Show us the birth certificate.
Yeah, prove it. Nick Martinez, man, I love watching him pitch. He's kind of a bulldog out there. I don't understand the pitching rules enough to know why it's not a balk every time he winds up.
Right.
But it's not. I guess my question to you is, let's run through his stats real quick before I ask that question. Nick Martinez is sitting here with, come on, internet, you can do
this. Was
that
your Scott stat from Creed? Were you about to be like, can you take
me higher? Listen, we can have a Creed sing-off if you want to. I can pull a couple hits. With arms wide open. We already talked about me having a daughter soon. You think I'm not singing that song to my wife while she's giving birth? You're crazy.
Guess it's better than Ed Sheeran.
That's how you get beat. All right, so Nick Martinez is 8-6 on the season for people that still care about wins and losses. 3.46 ERA. That's 13 starts in 39 appearances. 122.1 innings pitched. He's 3rd on the team in innings pitched, which is kind of wild. And he's chilling at a nice 126 ERA plus. Keeping that whip. I love that whip, 1.112.
Love to see it.
He's been so good. I mean, if you just said, "Hey, what's the best case scenario for Nick Martinez this year?"
But then
This is
this,
it.
yeah.
He is going to be your long reliever, your swing guy. He's going to step in and start when he needs to. He's going to be completely serviceable, and then you're going to ride off into the sunset. Everything about the write off, except for the right off into the sunset part's been true. The issue is he's got an option. Is it a
Well,
mutual
really,
option?
it's a player.
Player option for 12 mil. He really likes these player options.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's had one
Can't
just
blame
about
him.
every year since he came over from pitching in Korea, I think.
Yep.
And I think we're going to lose Nick Martinez.
I do too, but if I were Nick Kroll, now we're a smart man, I would go ahead and say, "Hey, man, pick up the option, and we'll put a few more extra bucks on there for you."
Yeah,
Because
you can have another option if that's your prerogative.
yeah, you have a UFA in 2026. Pick up the option. We'll throw an additional 3-4 mil at you, get you 16 million for that season, and we want you back.
Yeah, and this
And,
isn't the OG days of Joey Votto's first extension.
right.
16 mil now for the effort that he's given you, for the production that Nick Martinez has given you.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's totally fine,
It's a
people.
bargain. It's a bargain.
It's a bargain.
Yeah.
So shout out Nick Martinez. Also, he's a ball brother. I like that about him. He needs to go ahead and just commit a little more, but we all go at our own pace. Two more guys I want to talk about before we have a little bit more of an extended conversation about the pitching, because that's the shining light of this sort of like third of the season. Let's go out of order here. Shouts to Brandon Williamson. Welcome back, homie. My biggest miss, I think, ever was when the Reds brought him up, and I thought it was a disaster last year. This guy has been hot garbage in AAA. But he had to come up. They needed him.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up and he pitched admirably. He didn't set the world on fire, but he pitched good enough to be a 4 or 5 guy in a rotation.
Yeah.
Then, as Reds pitchers are wont to do, he got injured and missed almost the entire season until recently. He has come back. He's had 2 starts under his belt, already racked up half a win above replacement, and is sitting with a tidy 2.08 ERA in 13 innings pitched. He sometimes wears a onesie that his grandma gave him. He's funny on Twitter when he's on Twitter. I like this guy a lot.
Me too.
I'm rooting for him extra hard because he was part of a trade package that shipped away players that I love. So I would like to take that sting away a little bit. What are your thoughts on what we've seen from Brandon Williamson so far after a second strong outing?
He's a dog, man. I was kind of in the market of why come back with him, and I'm very glad that I was wrong because he's been really, really good. You talk about his first start, he kind of only threw about 3 innings, I think it was like that. This past start, he was really good, and then that bullpen game when he came in after,
yeah,
he was really, really good. 4 2/3 of really good baseball. He's a competitor. You can see that he just likes when it's his day to get the ball, and he's going to come at you. He doesn't waste a lot of pitches. I mean, he's not going out there throwing 100, obviously, but he's doing the thing, and I'm really excited to him. So, yeah, this competition for the 5 rotation spots next year is going to be really fascinating because of guys like him, guys like Andrew Abbott, whatever in the world happens with Graham Ashcraft. I know that's your guy, but it's interesting now. It's very interesting between all these dudes.
Yeah, 100%. Let's talk.
I can't imagine Rhett Lowder's not on the big league club next year.
Well, let's quickly move over to Rhett Lowder. I mean, the guy has been incredible.
Yeah,
he had a slow start out the gates in AAA, and then he just kind of figured it out. He was pitching really, really well his last 8 or 9 starts or so down there in Louisville. Another guy came up out of necessity. I don't think in a perfect world the Reds would have seen him in Cincinnati this season.
Yeah.
But they had to. And all he's done is pitch to a 0.59 ERA.
Video game numbers.
0.59. It's 3 games started, 15.1 innings pitched. Had the walk bug a little bit in the first 2, not in the third game. which is not a thing that he struggled with at any point in his career. So not something you need to worry about. He has been electric. He is a pitcher's pitcher. Kind of reminds me a little bit of got some of that Andrew Abbott that gets a lot of strikeouts just on pitch mix and location and deception. The locks are incredible. I'm jealous. He's got a good name. And I think you're right. He's got to be in the mix for the 2025 rotation.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring him up, Nate, because the other night I was messing around on the Late Night Reds Twitter account, being silly, like one does. And I was having the conversation of workshopping my Rhett Lowder nicknames because I'm an idiot. And I got some good ones from
fun.
Yeah. I got some good ones from listeners, but I think I really like Rhett the Hitman Hart.
You know, that was so good. I saw that and I was a little jealous of it. I wonder how you're a big wrestling fan though. Like, you don't think it steps on?
Well, Brett's my all-time favorite wrestler, so of course I'm gonna do it in homage to him. So,
and does a pitcher want to be called the Hitman?
That's a great point. That's a good point. Our good friend Wick said, to quote the great Sir Paul McCartney, "Let it be, let it be." I like that one. Yeah. By the way, Paul McCartney has a great Christmas song. You guys should hear it sometime.
You are the worst.
And then Big Red Tweeter had Albemarle Ace.
Albemarle.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell that, so I'm glad you did.
I lived in Albemarle County, Virginia, but I think that's a reference to his North Carolina upbringing, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't speak Spanish.
I really like Rhett the Hitman Hart. I think it's solid.
All right, Rhett the Hitman Hart is good. If we can do better, if you think you can do better, then holler at us at team@riverfrontcincy.com or at Late Night Reds or at LNR?
At Late Reds.
At Late Reds on Twitter or at Riverfront Cincy, or holler at Tim or myself at NC.32, at Tim Daniel 518. But if you can do better than Rhett the Hitman Hart, then I'll be impressed. Tim, let's talk about one more guy before we get into just the sheer number of options that we're going to have next season. Chase Petty. Chase Petty is a guy who is 21 years old. He is the number 8 Reds prospect. He was acquired in that Sonny Gray trade that still tortures us to this day because he literally tortured the Reds today. He is 10-5 on the season with a 4.39 ERA. That doesn't seem very good. But I smell a big hairy butt coming. But in his last 9 starts, he has a 3.14 ERA and a 2.95 FIP, and hitters are batting 179 against him. Another guy that struggled a little bit early on and got his stuff together and sort of lived up to the prospect hype. He throws absolute gas. He is so much fun to watch, and he got promoted to Louisville. And that's pretty exciting for all parties involved because that puts him on track to potentially have a 2025 Major League debut. So before we look at who all might take the hill for the Reds in 25, do you have any Chase Petty thoughts?
Not a whole lot. Kind of just piggybacking what you said. He's very fun to watch. I really love his way he mixes his pitches. I think he's a gamer for sure. He doesn't like to get beat, and he remembers when he does get beat. He's a guy who the thing that I really like about him is if he does have a walk, he does give up a homer, does give up a double in the gap. He's kind of like, just give me the ball onto the next guy, we'll figure it out. And I think that he's like kind of that dude, just puts his head down and moves forward. So I am a big Chase Petty fan. I loved getting him in that Sonny Gray trade, even though I hated to lose Sonny Gray. And in regards to today, it was only a matter of time. His first 2 starts as a Cardinal against the Reds, the Reds shelled him. So it was inevitable it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, give me all the Chase Petty chances. I know he's coming up. Him and his new old teammate Bubba Thompson, who is making his AAA debut at the Louisville Bats after playing for the Reds.
The Bubba saga will be studied by scholars centuries from now. Yeah, Chase Petty is an exciting arm. Him and Connor Phillips were both guys that I thought were going to factor in sooner rather than later. Connor Phillips showing a few signs of life down there in AAA. It's not been sunshine and rainbows by any means.
Oof.
And I didn't see his most recent start. I think he just started in the last day or two.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either.
I was looking for it, couldn't find it. But the Reds have some arms, man. We mentioned how it's one of the few things that's kind of fun to talk about right now. So I guess the question that we should be talking is, how do we see that rotation? How do we see next season's rotation playing out? Keeping in mind that they have needed about 35 starting pitchers this season.
Yeah.
So you're going to need bodies. This isn't the 2010 Reds or 12 Reds that had
2012, man.
2012 when they had the one start in the doubleheader that wasn't a member of the opening day roster
what
rotation.
was his name? Todd
Redmond?
Yeah, because he threw a no-hitter against the Louisville Bats when he was with the Gwinnett Braves.
What a jerk.
Yeah.
How dare he?
Because Todd Frazier literally said in an interview, he went, "We're like watching this guy throw against us. We're like, how's he getting us out? We don't get it."
Well, screw that guy. That one time. Loved him when he was a Red. Okay, so some names in the mix for next rotation. Obviously, we have Hunter Green, right? Mm-hmm. I think it gets really interesting immediately after.
It does.
There are 4 names that you could convince me are the number 2 guy. Obviously, we have to talk about Nick Lodolo, but let's be honest, man. He's not been a very good pitcher.
No.
He has moments, and he'll have stretches where he looks like, the second coming of Justin Verlander. But he has not been healthy. He's not been able to sustain it. And I am on record saying I am pretty worried about our guy, Nicky Lodolo. What about you? Where do you land?
This is not recency bias. This is just how I really feel when I look at all these guys, the people I've talked to, looking at ceilings of all these pitchers. I realistically think that next year I would have Rhett Lowder as a number 2. Now, will the Reds? Probably not, because of how young he is in his big league career. But realistically, I think if you're looking at the guys who are capable, and Chase Burns certainly down the road, I'm not putting him in this conversation just yet, but who knows how next year goes? Maybe he's in this conversation for we're having in September of next year for the 26 team, or sooner. If you look at
I think he's in the conversation. I mean, him starting next year would be no different than Rhett Lowder starting this year.
That's a great point. You're absolutely right. But I think right now, I think Lowder has the second highest ceiling other than Hunter Green. So I think I feel comfortable putting him at number 2. I will for sure give Nick Lodolo a chance to be in the rotation because he is definitely talented. Like you said, the injuries have definitely messed some things up. But I've been on record to say I feel like he's going to make that step that Hunter took from the end of last year to this year, for 2025, where I think that you're kind of seeing where Hunter kind of figured out where he was having these loose ends and where things were kind of getting away from him. And Lodolo's going through that now, right? Like no one's swinging at the back leg breaking ball anymore, and they're just taking the hit by pitch.
My problem with Lodolo on that specific point, sorry for interrupting, is that every season he's done that.
Yeah.
He starts out fooling people with that pitch, and then they adjust, and then he goes on the injured list.
Yeah. What kind of blister is this? I mean,
so I guess that's my concern with Nick Lodolo.
That's fair.
It's the world's worst. Now there's some advanced stuff with Nick Lodolo that makes you think. You said that you think Rhett Lowder has the highest ceiling. I would probably argue that Nick Lodolo has a higher ceiling than Rhett Lowder. I just think Rhett Lowder has a much, much, much higher floor. But I'm not saying you're wrong either. I can see Rhett Lowder in that spot. So Kyle Kapler, one of our Patreon family members, as this question for his viewer mail question said, is Nick Lodolo the worst starting pitching option going forward with who's currently in the future plan? Now, Kyle is prone to some hot takes. That's what I like about him.
Mm-hmm.
Great Twitter follow also. I disagree with this. I do not think he's the worst starting pitcher.
I don't either.
But if you want to rephrase that and say, is he the starting pitcher you're most worried about? I think there could be an argument there.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, he's better than Brandon Williamson. I know Brandon Williamson's having this run, but realistically, he's a better pitcher than Brandon Williamson. That's not a knock on Williamson. He's better than Ashcraft. I think that's fair to say. And then from there, I would say he's better than Andrew Abbott, realistically. But I will hear a conversation on why he's not and not fight you on it. It's the 1 + 1 = 5 Keanu Reeves thing going on. So, but yeah, I don't think this is a bad question by any means. I just don't think I would say he's the worst of the group.
Yeah, I tend to agree. But eventually we have to start. We keep saying they're young, small sample size. I mean, we're 3 seasons in.
Yep.
He had 103 innings pitched his first season, 34 last season, and 115 this year. This version of Nick Lodolo is the most he has ever pitched in his major league career.
Yeah, it's
and
not
I
a good
feel
trend.
like we have barely seen him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm worried about Nick Lodolo. I still have faith that when he's at the top of his game, if he can figure it out, if he can stay healthy, he has as high of a ceiling as anybody except for Hunter on this roster. But man, we got to see it. We got to see something. Who else we got? Obviously, Andrew Abbott firmly in the mix. Rhett Lowder firmly in the mix. I think he's played himself into the mix. I think there's a scenario where he could still start in AAA, but if he closes out the season with 2 more starts, anywhere close to what he's done the last 2, then I don't see how you keep him off the roster unless you are just playing, I don't want to say service time manipulation, but maybe just innings limit manipulation so that if the team's good, he's available in the second half more so than the first.
Can I get your thoughts on something about him?
Listen, I can't imagine why you would want them, but yes.
Okay. So, first things first. Indigo Montoya, right? Like, that's the look?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I like it.
So, yeah. Second, I think he should, I know the high number is always usually given to the guy who's just getting caught up for a couple days to kind of fill a spot in. I think he should keep 81. I think it looks kind of dope on a baseball jersey.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I hate it when people get pigeonholed in the numbers, and the NFL does it all the time when they okay, this guy plays this position, he can only have this range of numbers. Forget it, man. Your number is what you're given when you first started playing. If you're able to maintain the same number through high school, college, and pros all the way to the top, awesome. Unlikely. Yeah. Take that number you got on day one, own it, rock it, make that 81 Lowder jersey the hottest selling ticket in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it looks dope.
I like it. All right, we talked about my guy Ashcraft. He's going to be in the mix. I'm finally willing to admit in public and on the record that there is a world where he moves to the bullpen. It hurts because he's another guy that I think has a very high ceiling. Unfortunately, his potential as a back of the bullpen guy. And it's your boy John Sadak that did this to me. I got Sadak pilled. Watching him pitch, and the Reds were playing the Guardians, and Emmanuel Clase A takes the bump, and John Sadak mentions how when he sees Clase A pitch, he envisions Graham Ashcraft in that role. It's like similar profiles, similar velocity and pitch mix, and that was when I was like, you know what? Maybe I should start selling my real estate on Graham Ashcraft as a starter island. Granted, you never sell at the bottom of its peak. All right, so Ashcraft's in the mix. We talk about Brandon Williamson, firmly in the mix.
Yeah.
Firmly in the mix. I think if he is your number 5 starter, you are happy with the production your rotation's giving you. We talked about Chase Petty. We talked about Chase Burns. We could have multiple chases in the starting rotation. It's not impossible. We barely talked about Chase Burns. He was the Reds' number 2 pick in this past draft. All the potential in the world, but we don't know. We'll see. But people think he's incredible. He's already, I think, the number 1 prospect in the Red system.
Yeah, I think he is.
Immediately jumped everybody. So shouts to him. Julian Aguilar, who annoys me for not having an L in his last name. I feel like it's unfair to us, to people that have to talk about him for a living. But he's been solid. He was the Reds organizational pitcher of the year last year. Minor league pitcher of the year, I guess. Not a flashy guy, not a, he's not going to set the social medias on fire, but a rock solid dude that's gonna get some starts.
Yeah.
Have you liked what you've seen out of Aguilar so far?
I have. Yeah, I think he's been really, really impressive so far.
Yeah, so I mean, a guy I didn't expect to be talking about this season, but here we are. And then Nick Martinez and Jakob Junis, who we talked about. There's only one person I think I'm missing, and that's a guy who came out and said loud and proud in an interview lately that he would love to pitch in Cincinnati next year. Tim, he's worn the uniform before. We know it fits.
I was like, oh, God, please don't say Trevor Bauer. Please don't say Trevor Bauer.
No. It's like Candyman or Beetlejuice. We're not going to say it 3 times. Yeah. Frankie Montas said in an interview that he would love to be back in Cincinnati.
He said he would love to retire in Cincinnati.
I haven't checked his stats lately to see how he's been doing. I'm going to yank him up real quick in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
I don't know, man.
I'm out.
Yeah, he could do worse, I guess. But you could do better.
I'm out.
I'm torn a little bit. He was not good for us, but the way that the other pitchers glowingly spoke of him makes me think that maybe there's something there. But I wish it was more in the line of, being good at pitching.
Yeah, that would be helpful. That would definitely be helpful.
All right. Is there anybody else we're missing from the who might be the 25 rotation?
No, because I don't really believe in Connor Phillips. I don't think he's going to have a shot. I just think there's too much depth in front of him.
What a disappointing season for him. Yeah, I think that's it. But we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 dudes, counting Nick Martinez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We need way more than that. 22, 24 pitchers, I believe, have had starts for the Reds this year.
That's terrible.
It's not ideal, but hey, we'll see. All right, a couple more viewer mail questions before we, we'll talk about some James Earl Jones stuff in a minute.
Love it.
James Urban, who we talked about, he asked, is Rhett Lowder better than Paul Skeens?
Yes.
Tim says yes. Go on that take.
So, I mentioned earlier, I've talked to some peeps. Good friend here on the network, Jack Mueller, our Riverfront Miami, Ohio cover guy, who's really involved in prospects, worked in the Cape Cod League for a year. Flat out told me when I asked him about Rhett Lowder, he said he will be better than Skeens. While Skeens will throw harder, Rhett Lowder is a better pitcher. And I will take that. I will take Jack's words on this because he knows baseball far better than I do, and I will roll with it.
I love it. I appreciate the take. I hope you stick with it. Write it out the way I wrote out my Graham Ashcraft takes.
Dude, it's a pro-Cincinnati, anti-Pittsburgh take. You know I'm going to ride that until it dies.
Well, just look at their ERAs, Tim. Rhett Lowder, his starts with a 0, and Paul Skeens starts with a 2. What a loser.
Yeah.
Right. I love it. Jordan Salisbury says, so another losing season. I've followed this team since the 2000 season and was born in 1988. I have no memory of a World Series or a playoff series win. Will I ever? What do I have to hope on at this point?
It's a loaded question.
Jordan, not much difference between you and I. Born in 85. I don't remember the 90 World Series. I don't really remember 95. I was 10. I have vague memories of hanging out with Chad and watching these things. Why hope? Why? Because it's sports. Mm-hmm. It's not that big of a deal, I think, is the main thing. And because it doesn't really, really matter, it makes it okay for us to root for a team like the Reds. we're not going to be drugged down by the bad times the way Yankees fans and Dodgers teams are, because we're conditioned to it. We're used to it.
Yeah.
We wear it like Teflon, like armor at this point.
That's true.
But the reason you hope is that tiny little chance. Can you imagine the energy? Still to this day, the best sporting event I've ever been to was Game 3 of a playoff series sweep at the hands of the Phillies. That game in Cincinnati was the most fun I've ever had, the most electric atmosphere I've ever been a part of. And that was a sweep in a series of which the Reds got no hit. R.I.P. Roy Halladay. Can you imagine the vibes if the Reds were ever to make a deep run? That's why we hope.
I was at the Bengals game when they beat the Raiders to break the playoff skid. Yes, I can definitely imagine what it's going to be like if the Reds do pull one off.
A lot of people around town were saying that this is a football town now after looking at that home crowd in Cincinnati last Sunday. No way, man. This will always be a baseball town. And while our generation has seen a just hysterically low amount of success, there's a generation before us that got to see the big red machine.
Yep.
And it could happen again. And we've got Ellie De La Cruz. We got Hunter Green. We've got Tyler Stevenson, who we just mentioned for the first time.
I know. What are we doing? Yeah.
Actually, scrap this podcast. We're starting over. We're recording. It's going to be the Tyler Stevenson appreciation episode after all that smack Tim talked.
One time. And look.
Well, it was
you all can say you're welcome. Yeah. Because of Tim Daniel, Devin Booker and Tyler Stevenson had phenomenal summers. All right. So
hater. But we appreciate you. Yeah, Jordan, it's tough out there, man. But you are not alone. We're in this together. What you hope, because guys like Ailey pop around every now and again. And look at the Diamondbacks right now. They can make a run like they did last season. There's always It sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. It sucks. I hate this. The B500 and hope you get a rabbit's foot up your ass strategy. But we've got what we've got. And we got some really fun guys to root for.
Like, look at the Royals. They have really fun guys. And when they spent money, it wasn't like they broke the bank. They just got dudes that fit their team and good contracts. And the Reds could certainly do that if they wanted to.
Yeah. It's in the cards. Who knows? Tim, I'm going to scrap the James Earl Jones Hall of Fame movie side character conversation. We'll do that at a later date since we're already at 53 minutes.
People will come, Ray.
People will come. Let us know your thoughts on who your favorite sports movie side characters are, because we'll make it a draft next time. We love a good draft episode. But
can I tell you a cool James Earl Jones story I heard this week?
Please.
Okay, so as we know, I'm one who very much loves the superhero culture. I mean, literally, as I've pointed out on multiple episodes. I know you also are one who has an Avengers tattoo. So
it's been said.
Yeah. So I think that this thing that I always hated growing up, being a huge fan of this culture, is that everyone thought that I enjoyed the Big Bang Theory, which I do not. But there was an episode that James Earl Jones was on.
Okay.
And it was actually really terrific writing. It was very good. He's like making fun of himself, typical ways. But there's a scene in the episode where they go and they ding dong ditch Carrie Fisher's house. Yes, they got Carrie Fisher and James Earl Jones in the same episode.
That's incredible.
And she like opens the door, she's holding a bat, and she's like, "This isn't funny, James." And you can hear him go, "Then why am I laughing?" That was, even though they were both in 3 of the most successful films ever made, that was the very first time they ever met, was filming that show.
Really?
Yeah.
That is wild.
Isn't that crazy?
That is insane.
He said that when he met her on the set of Big Bang Theory, she ran up to him and went, "Dad!"
No way. I love that.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with somebody after the news broke, and shout out to the great James Earl Jones. I can't think of another actor who, when you think of them, I think I mentioned this in the Slack channel too. You could have 10, maybe call it 5 people in a room and say James Earl Jones, and a different person comes to mind, a different character comes to mind for all 5 of them.
Yeah.
He was so special in that way. Obviously, you've got Terrence Mann from Field of Dreams. You've got Mr. Myrtle from Sandlot, which is the first person that I thought of. Darth Vader, which I was shocked wasn't the first person I thought of. And then you've got King Mufasa, obviously. And then Coming to America, King Jaffa, something like that. I can't remember. Yeah. But what a legend. James Earl Jones. You are one of the all-time great sports movie side character actors, and just one of the great actors of all time. So we planned on going a little bit deeper into some movie stuff, but we ran long talking about all the amazing, positive, super fun things there are to talk about in Redsland.
There aren't many, so we had to make sure we stretched it out.
We had to go deep. Old Man James did have one question. His submission to the restaurant.
I'm excited about this one. Yeah.
He needs to know the top 3 fast food chains in the USA.
All right.
I did not put advanced thought into this. So do you have your 3 ready to go?
Yeah, actually I do. First things first, though. Are we counting sheets?
No, that is, I would call fast casual.
Okay. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Takes a little bit longer.
In that case, it's Shake Shack out of the conversation.
We'll allow it.
Okay. Then Shake Shack is number 1. Because It is an unbelievable burger.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna go down to your neck of the woods. I'm gonna bring in my my good friends at Jack in the Box.
Ooh,
super underrated because we don't have them here.
I talked to the folks at Jack in the Box. They did not expect to be nominated for this award, so they appreciate you.
Yeah, it's true. Jack in the Box is elite. And then, this where it gets hard. You know what, my man? I might just stay in your neck of the woods, and I'm gonna go with my guys over at Whataburger.
Ooh, I've recently been introduced to Whataburger and am a fan.
It's the only ketchup I'll ever eat.
It's good ketchup. They also feature yellow mustard on their burgers, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw out there. We don't talk politics on this show, so I'm going to throw out Chick-fil-A.
Yep, solid.
It's too good. It's unfair how good it is. My wife has a Chick-fil-A problem. We're sending her to therapy twice a week. It's not working. I'm going to throw out a wild card here that I don't think people would expect. I'm a huge Arby's fan.
Okay, I'm with you.
You want to tell you what? You want to get full on a
dude.
meal? Go get you a big beef and cheddar, which is just like good advice generally in life.
Yeah.
Just go get you a big beef and cheddar, young man, young woman. Curly fries, always good.
Even their burgers are solid. Angus beef. Yeah.
And then I know this could be a bit controversial because I feel like 2/3 of their cuisine is mediocre at best, but Hardee's breakfast.
I miss
Hardee's
it.
breakfast is important to me.
I miss it.
Carl's Jr. for some of y'all out there. I also miss their fried chicken game.
Yeah, dude. Pretty elite.
They had a strong fried chicken game back in the day. KFC just took it from them.
Yeah, they did.
Or Raising Cane's. Can we throw Raising Cane's in there?
I'm not a Raising Cane's guy. I'm more of a Zaxby's guy.
Ooh, you know what? I like the seasoning on Zaxby's better, but I like the toast at Raising Cane's better.
That's a great point. And the sauce at Raising Cane's is phenomenal.
The cane sauce is
it's the reason you go there. It's certainly not the chicken.
No. McDonald's, if the Monopoly game is in season. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with winning $1 million in the McDonald's Monopoly game.
My half-baked podcast idea I've always wanted to do, Nate, is I want to do a review of McDonald's restaurant giveaways, whether it's a Happy Meal toy or like a collectible glass or anything that they're growing up, because we're the same age group. We saw some pretty elite giveaways in McD's.
This is true.
The Batman Forever glasses are hanging in my basement. They're unbelievable. And obviously the Bugs Life watches was an elite one that no one ever really talks about.
The disappointment that you would get as a child when you got the same thing you'd already gotten in a Happy Meal.
Dude, Batman Returns when that came out. Like, do you remember all the stuff they had? Like the Fry box had the Batman logo. Super, super dope. The Dream Team glasses in '92.
Oh yeah, definitely had those.
Yeah. It's like it'll be a great podcast. I just don't have the time to really do it.
You know, we can make the time.
Yeah. But yeah, McDonald's, I think if you go like bigger brands, Wendy's, obviously, I think it's a solid burger.
Wendy's had a moment. I had a moment with Wendy's where it was big time. I had a not down to a science where you could get like a nugget, a junior bacon cheeseburger, frosty and fries for exactly $5 after tax.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice run. Thank you, inflation, for ruining that.
Yeah, no kidding.
What else we got? I don't know. It's a pretty good list so far.
Do we count Wingstop?
They have a drive-thru?
Some locations do.
Then I'm going to say no. You have to have a drive-thru in every location to be fast.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
It's the qualifier.
That's fair.
Not fast food at all, but random. And I'm talking to my friend here. I went to Medieval Times for the first time recently.
No kidding.
It was so much fun.
You know where I really have you ever done the Pigeon Forge vacation?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I grew up. Our hometown is only a couple hours from there.
That's true. Yeah. So I think you might know this. My wife is a diehard. How weird this is, say Reds. My wife is with Dolly Parton.
Dixie Stampede.
Dixie Stampede. She's never done it. So I'm like, we're gonna have to do it. We're gonna have to do it.
You got to do it. Plus, you could take a little Iris down there to Pigeon Forge, go to Dollywood.
Yep.
So much to do down there that she would adore.
Yeah. I heard Dollywood at Christmas time is pretty elite.
It is. Can't confirm.
Yeah.
I was at that Medieval Times. We were walking out, and this little kid, he had gotten gifted like a sword or something, like a little play sword. And as we were walking out, we made eye contact, and he just threw up a fist bump as we crossed.
Nice.
I was like, me and you, little bro. we had a time. All right, Tim. We waited until an hour in this podcast to go completely off the rails. Mm-hmm. Please let the people know what you've got going on, because you got a lot going on these days. So they need to know where all they can find you.
All right, yeah. So obviously, Late Night Reds, Sunday nights live here on this fair YouTube channel, or Monday mornings on this podcast feed, whatever your choice is. But I tell you what, man, even though the season's not gone very well, the chat on Sunday nights has still been great.
It's elite.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Live chat is that's a great community.
We're laughing about what if Juan Soto went to the Reds, and then the conversation got like, what if Juan Soto went to the Reds? And it got pretty lengthy, and I was kind of shocked by it. But yeah, there's that. Nate did say something about the Cavs earlier. There is a project in the works that I'm not able to release information on just yet because it's not fully set in stone, but there will be some stuff here in the future. Will not be with the Riverfront, but I will never, ever leave the Riverfront. This is my home. And then we're going to be looking for a Xavier basketball writer to take it from me, because I'm not going to have time to be at the arena anymore. So if you are interested, reach out to us. And lastly, on the Riverfront UN today, when you're checking this show out, if you are one who supports the Miami Redhawks, our great friends of Jack Mueller and Ted are doing a really, really good. They did their first episode. They don't have a name for it just yet, so we just call it the Miami Redhawks Introductory Pod. But check it out. Ted Brennan, Jack Mueller, getting you discussing the game against Northwestern, getting you ready for Saturday against UC when they defend the victory bell and take it home again.
I love it. It's like you rehearsed that, but I know you didn't. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on 2 weeks in a row, saving the day over here. We love the work you're doing. We support everything. And shouts to everybody that tuned in this episode. We appreciate y'all. Shouts to our Patreon family. That if you want to join that family, we're having a good time, even in the lowest of times as a Reds fan, over at patreon.com/RiverfrontCincy. We would love for y'all to join and hang out with us. And, man, I got to say some shout outs to Luis Alberto Bonilla. Mm-hmm. Shouts to my guy, Adam Dunn. Shouts to, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. How about Killian Murphy? Love that guy.
There you go.
Shouts to Adam Sandler. because Billy Madison was a formative movie for me even before I understood all the jokes.
Same.
Shouts to Wayne Krenchicki. Shouts to Eli Cash. For Tim Daniel, this is Nate Dotson saying so long with Cincinnati.